My name's Chris. This happened years ago, but it's one of those memories that crept back into my head recently, like an old scar you'd forgotten about until it started to ache. I was 17 that summer, working nights at a shabby little pizza place on the edge of my childhood hometown. It wasn't exactly my dream job, but with no money and parents who would have flipped out if I didn't pull my weight, I didn't have much choice. It was the kind of gig you take because nowhere else is hiring. Slow shifts, sticky uniforms, and a beat-up delivery car that groaned every time I drove it uphill. At least I didn't have to use my own car. That was the only upside. Not that this is super important, but I feel like it adds to the story. The pizza was awful. Like, truly, inedibly bad. Even now, I don't understand how that place stayed open. If not for the free Wi-Fi and air conditioning, I swear we wouldn't have gotten a single order. Still, I guess it wasn't all bad. Since the food was so terrible and the shop was stuck in the middle of nowhere, most nights were painfully slow. I won't bore you with the details of how my shifts usually went. It's a pizza place. You can probably fill in the blanks yourself. One particular night, I was restocking drinks in the fridge when the tablet on the counter buzzed with an online order. A large sausage and olive pizza. I remember that detail because we never got orders for olives. The address was way out past our delivery zone, so far that I was ready to reject it out of habit. But before I could, my manager, a guy named Russell who spent most nights sitting in the back scrolling through Reddit, leaned out and said, "Take it. We haven't had a run in over an hour." I didn't argue. When the pizza was ready, I punched the directions into my phone, grabbed the box, and headed for the door. At least it would kill 30 or 40 minutes. As I walked to the car, I glanced at the printed receipt Russell had stapled to the box. There was a note under delivery instructions. I hadn't noticed it before, but it read, and I still remember this word for word. Park on the street behind the house. Walk through the backyard. Knock on the back door only. It caught my attention for a second, but my 17-year-old brain brushed it off. I came up with a dozen possible reasons why someone might want to use the back door. Maybe they didn't want to wake an old parent or a sleeping baby. Maybe the front door was under construction. Maybe they didn't want whoever was home to know they ordered pizza. Whatever the reason, it didn't matter. The night was dragging, and all I wanted was to get out of folding boxes for a while. So I shrugged it off. But the second I stepped outside, I felt weird. It was one of those sticky summer nights where the air feels like warm soup. Hot, humid, and completely still. There was this sour, plastic smell hanging in the air, the kind of smell you only notice when everything's too quiet. I rolled down the windows for maybe 2 minutes before giving up and blasting the AC. The drive to the address took me away from town. Each mile, the houses got farther apart, the roads darker. The GPS said it would take 25 minutes, but it felt longer. By the time I pulled onto the skinny side street that ran behind the house, there were no street lights, no porch lights, just shadows. I slowed down, squinting at the peeling numbers nailed to a rickety fence. The house looked dead. No cars in the driveway. No lights in the windows. Just an overgrown backyard and a crooked wooden fence that didn't even latch all the way. Still, I followed the instructions. I parked on the gravel shoulder, grabbed the pizza, and started walking up the small incline toward the back door. In one hand, I held the pizza box. In the other, my phone flashlight, angling it toward my feet so I wouldn't trip. The back door was one of those old white ones with a tiny glass pane at the top, covered by a cheap yellowing curtain. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. As I raised my hand to knock a third time, I saw the curtain move. It wasn't much, just a tiny twitch like someone had brushed it with their finger. I froze. Someone was on the other side of that door. Seconds passed. Then headlights flared in the corner of my eye. 2 unmarked cars rolled slowly down the side street behind mine. At first, I thought I was about to get yelled at for parking somewhere I wasn't supposed to. One of the car doors opened, and a man stepped out. In the beam of the headlights, I could see he wasn't in uniform. He raised his hand and motioned for me to come over. I hesitated, but figured he had ordered the pizza and had just gotten home. But as I got closer, I saw the badge in his hand. Undercover. He didn't say much, just told me in a firm, low voice to head back to your car and wait there. So I did. From the car, I watched as more men in plain clothes emerged from the shadows. 5 of them, maybe more, all moving silently, flashlights cutting through the overgrown grass. None of them knocked. None of them announced themselves. One of them tried the back door handle. It didn't open. He stepped back, nodded at another officer, and faded into the darkness. It felt like I was watching something I shouldn't see. Eventually, the first cop came back to my car and crouched beside the window. I rolled it down, and his eyes flicked to the pizza box in the passenger seat. He let out a quiet sigh, then said in a low voice, "There's an active investigation involving this property. You need to leave now." He glanced at my delivery app as I showed him the order. Name, Jerry, phone number, and address. He jotted something down, thanked me for cooperating, and repeated, "Go now." I tried to argue, told him my boss was going to chew me out if I returned with the pizza. He didn't care, so I left. The entire drive back, my brain was buzzing. What the hell had I just stumbled into? The more I thought about it, the worse it felt. The timing, the curtain twitching. Had I been bait? Were they testing to see if the cops were still watching the house? Or was someone inside about to open that door and pull me in before the police showed up? I'll never know. And honestly, it's probably better that way. This happened just last year. I'm 40 now, married with 2 boys, ages 7 and 5. I work in insurance. It's as boring as it sounds, but it keeps us stable. And at this stage of life, that's all I care about. A couple years ago, my dad passed away after a long fight with cancer. He left behind a beach house down in Delaware, a place I had never visited before because he used to rent it out year-round. It's nothing flashy or luxurious, but it's in an amazing spot, just 1 block off the boardwalk. My favorite part of the house is the upstairs back deck. From there, you get this beautiful view of the ocean, especially at sunset. After Dad passed, my wife, Claire, and I started bringing the boys there every summer. It became our little family tradition, our escape. As much as Claire and I love the place, the kids adore it even more. They'll spend hours playing on the beach, riding their bikes, and exploring the town like little adventurers. It feels like a gift, like something my dad left behind to keep us connected even after he was gone. This story happened during one of those summer weeks, last July. We'd gone down for a Sunday through Friday trip, picking a time when the crowds would thin out midweek and the beach felt calmer. It was a Wednesday night. The boys had completely worn themselves out from a long day in the sun and were sound asleep by 9:30. Claire and I were sitting on the back deck, playing cards and sipping wine under the warm glow of string lights. That's when our older son, Jacob, came outside. He looked uneasy, clutching his stuffed dinosaur under one arm. "Dad," he said softly, "there's this scratching noise in my room, and I can't sleep." I exchanged a quick glance with Claire, then set my glass down and stood up. "I'll go check it out," I told her. She nodded. "Okay, I'll stay out here. Probably just the house settling. It's old." Jacob led me down the creaky stairs and into his small room at the end of the hallway. He pointed to the wall near his bed and whispered, "It's coming from there." We both stood quietly for a moment. At first, I didn't hear anything and almost brushed it off. But I didn't want him thinking I wasn't taking him seriously, so I stayed still and kept listening. Then faintly, I heard it. A soft, deliberate scratching sound. My brows furrowed. I crouched down, pressing my ear to the wall. It wasn't the sound of an animal scurrying in the rafters. It was closer to the floor, low down, right by the baseboards. And then I heard it. Breathing. Not the quick, shallow breathing of an animal. This was deep, slow, human. My stomach dropped. I jerked back, muttering Jesus Christ before I even realized I was speaking. Jacob's eyes widened. And then, a guttural, furious scream exploded from inside the wall. It was raw, animalistic, so loud and so close that I felt it vibrate through the floor. My heart pounded as a cold. Sick fear washed over me. I grabbed Jacob by the arm and yanked him out of the room. "Come on," I whispered sharply. We sprinted down the hall. I didn't even pause as I scooped up our younger son, Ethan, from his bed. He stirred slightly, but didn't fully wake up. I didn't give him the chance. I just held him tight and ran for the stairs. "Claire!" I shouted as I reached the base of the steps. Before she could even answer, I heard another scream. This one was even closer, coming from the hallway behind us. I turned my head just in time to see a man, filthy, wild-eyed, and covered in grime, charging straight at us. His bare feet slapped against the wooden floor, and his face was twisted in rage. I nearly tripped trying to get up the stairs with both kids in my arms, but adrenaline carried me. We burst onto the deck just as Claire shot up from her chair, wine glass shattering on the floor. "Lock the door," I yelled. She slid the glass door shut just as the man slammed into it with a sickening thud. The entire pane shook violently. I threw my body against the door as he clawed at it like a rabid animal. His screams were deafening, and he started pounding the glass with both fists, smearing it with dirt, or maybe blood. "Claire, take the boys and call 911. Now," I barked. She grabbed them, shielding their faces as she backed away toward the corner of the deck, fumbling for her phone. The man outside was unhinged. His eyes locked on mine, wide and unblinking. Every time he slammed into the door, I thought for sure the glass would give way. I was ready to fight, to do anything to protect my family. But just when I thought the door wouldn't hold, red and blue lights flashed in the distance. Police sirens pierced the air. 2 officers appeared inside the house seconds later, running toward the man. One tackled him from behind, sending him sprawling across the floor, while the other helped restrain him. It was over as quickly as it had begun. The rest of the night was a blur. The officers pulled the man out in handcuffs and loaded him into a cruiser as he screamed and thrashed like a madman. When things calmed down, one of the cops asked for my account of what happened. Together, we searched the house. That's when they discovered it. A hidden crawl space underneath the back porch, leading to a standing space along the foundation. There was a loose panel inside Jacob's closet, the perfect hiding spot. I had no idea it even existed. The detective later told me the man admitted to living there for months. He had stumbled upon the crawl space during the off-season and started squatting there. He claimed the house was his now, and he had planned to get rid of us that night for intruding on his new home. Apparently, he'd been stealing scraps of food from our kitchen and rummaging through the neighbors' trash bins to survive. We didn't go back to the house for the rest of the summer. Not out of fear that he'd return. He was in jail, but because of the trauma. Claire and the boys didn't want to see the place again. And honestly, neither did I. It took months before I hired a crew to seal off the crawl space completely. Only then did I start to feel like I could breathe again. We went back for the first time this summer. It feels different now, but at least it's safe. At least I hope it is. I grew up in one of those quiet, rural areas where you could ride your bike for miles without seeing another soul. Like a lot of people, my favorite season has always been summer. It still is actually, but ever since I moved away from the countryside, summer feels different. It's lost a little bit of its charm. Back then, summer was everything to me. There's this warmth, this calmness, this emptiness to the world that I absolutely loved. It's hard to put into words, but I felt like I had my own little corner of the earth all to myself. I could vanish for hours and no one would know. And that sense of isolation, it wasn't scary back then. It felt freeing. But summer nights, those are my favorite. There was something about the darkness that made the world feel even more private, like the universe had drawn a curtain between me and the rest of the world. I was 16 at the time. Back then, I had a friend named Marissa. She was a little wilder than me, more impulsive. She liked pushing the boundaries in small ways, just to see if she could get away with it. One random night in July, Marissa suggested we go stargazing. Just the 2 of us, 2 bikes, and a bottle of wine she had swiped from her parents' cabinet. It wasn't the first time we'd done something like this. In fact, it had become a bit of a ritual for us during summer. But now that I'm looking back on it, I think this might have been one of the last times we ever went stargazing together. We didn't have a specific plan, no destination in mind, just a direction. Marissa said she knew of a great spot past the edge of town, some abandoned stretch of farmland where nobody would bother us. It sounded perfect. We left sometime around 10 p.m., riding our bikes down narrow country roads lit only by the moon. I don't remember exactly how long we rode. 20 minutes? Maybe 30? Eventually, Marissa slowed her bike and stopped abruptly. "We're here," she said. I glanced around, trying to see what made this spot special. There were no landmarks, no fences, no buildings, just a wide-open field, tall grass swaying gently in the night breeze, and an endless expanse of stars above. It was beautiful. We spread out a blanket, and Marissa popped the cork on the wine with a small opener she'd somehow remembered to bring. The wine wasn't great, some cheap red that made my lips feel dry, but it didn't matter. We lay back, passing the bottle between us, pointing out constellations we half remembered from childhood. Our goal for nights like this was always the same: spot a shooting star. At one point, Marissa asked, "Do you think we'll see one tonight?" I shrugged. "Maybe. Keep looking." Shooting stars weren't unheard of out there in the country. With no city lights to drown them out, the sky was alive in a way I'd never seen anywhere else. Even if we didn't see one, though, it was still the perfect night. The wine was doing its job, and I could feel myself relaxing into that gentle haze between tipsy and drunk. Time didn't seem to exist out there. The air was warm, the grass smelled sweet, and the world felt frozen in a way I'll never forget. There was this one moment, just a blip in the rhythm of the night, that sticks with me. I remember leaning back and catching Marissa staring at me in this strange way. Not strange bad, just different. It made me wonder for the first time if she wanted more than friendship. Growing up, I'd always suspected she might, but I never asked. People didn't talk about that kind of thing openly where we lived. Maybe I was just tipsy and overthinking. Either way, the moment passed. She cracked a joke about the wine tasting like vinegar, and we both laughed. And then, right on cue, a shooting star streaked across the sky. We both gasped and pointed at it like little kids. "Make a wish," Marissa whispered excitedly. I don't even remember what I wished for. Probably something silly. We lay there a little while longer, still laughing about nothing and feeling the shared warmth you get on summer nights like that. At some point, I closed my eyes, not to sleep, just to enjoy the breeze against my face. I swear to you, my eyes weren't closed for more than 5 seconds. But when I opened them, Marissa was gone. Not just off to pee, not fiddling with her phone. Gone. Her bike was gone too. Only mine remained, leaning awkwardly against the blanket. I sat up fast, scanning the field in every direction. Nothing. I called her name. No answer. Panic set in fast. The field that had felt so comforting moments ago now felt suffocating. The stars seemed dimmer. The air felt colder, not like it had cooled naturally, but like I'd stepped into a different version of the same place. I can't explain it, but it felt wrong. I pulled out my phone to check the time. 3 a.m. exactly. That time is burned into my memory. It didn't make sense. It hadn't even been midnight when I closed my eyes. I blinked hard, wondering if I'd fallen asleep without realizing it. But no, I knew I hadn't. Marissa would never leave me out there alone. I spun around, calling her name louder now. Nothing. I tried calling her phone. It rang, then went to voicemail. No texts. No explanation. Tears pricked my eyes as I grabbed my bike and started pedaling home. That ride was the longest, scariest ride of my life. I didn't stop until I was safe in my driveway. The next morning, I texted her as soon as I woke up, still expecting an apology or some kind of joke. But instead, she texted me first. "Where the hell did you go last night?" I stared at my phone in disbelief. I told her what I remembered, how I'd woken up alone at 3 a.m. and assumed she had left me. But then she said something that sent chills down my spine. She told me she was the one who woke up alone at 3 a.m. and that I was gone. We argued about it for hours, trying to piece together what happened. Neither of us had memory gaps. Neither of us had missed calls or texts, even though both of us swore we had tried calling each other. Eventually, we dropped it. We didn't want to talk about it anymore. But the truth is, I think both of us were more terrified than we wanted to admit. We never went stargazing together again. And to this day, I have no explanation for what happened out there in that field. People I've told this story to say it sounds paranormal. Maybe they're right. All I know is that I still wake up some nights, staring out at the stars and wondering what really happened that summer night. And I wonder if Marissa ever does the same.